Morning guys, I hope you're all keeping well. This is the bank holiday weekend, last August bank holiday of the year, and we've had planned to go down to Devon to go and see a few of our friends down there we haven't seen for a long time. They've got a static van on a campsite down there we're booked into, and we literally only got a couple of miles down the road. We weren't even out of Cambridge, to be honest, and the engine warning light is flashing now on the van, and I've got no power at all. Even if I bury my foot in the floor, I've got no power at all. So it's obviously put it into limp mode. So we just pulled into a little garage, a truck and van service place just near Duxford, just near the M11 there, just to see if they could pop their machine on the diagnostics, just let us know what it is. And went into the reception there, and the guy said, oh yeah, well, we can do a service on your vehicle, but I can't fit you in until next week. I said, well, surely, you know, can one of you guys just 5 minutes, just have a quick look at it and tell me what it is? No, I've got two blokes there on a call out at the moment, and the other guys are busy. You know, sorry mate, but I can't help you at all. So, gone are the days where you can pull into a garage these days and people will help you out, you know. If you're not in the diary or you're not in the calendar, it's just no good at all. So there we are, we're stuck on the side of the road wondering what to do. We can't obviously go down to Devon because the van's just limping around. So I remembered I had a little OBDII Wi-Fi device in the back of the van, so I've plugged that in. I've got an app that I downloaded on my phone, and I can read the codes myself. So the situation is, I've got a turbo underboost code come up, so that could be a sensor on the turbo or something like that, and that makes total sense because I've literally got no power, so something wrong with the turbo. So I think we're just going to limp it back to Lou's mum and dad's, see if I can have a chat with one or two of my friends that I know that are mechanics, and see if we can do something to sort it out. But whether we'll actually make it down to Devon this weekend or not, it's looking highly unlikely. I mean, we could use the car, drive down there, but then I doubt very much that we'd get anywhere to stay, because being a bank holiday and the last bank holiday before the kids go back to school, everybody will be taking advantage of this weekend to get away, I think. So places to stay are going to be few and far between. Anyway, we'll crawl our way back to Lou's mum and dad's, regroup, see what we can do to get the van repaired, and then take it from there. Obviously the added problem is we're living in the van, so if anybody wants it to keep for a few days to work on it, that's another added problem to where we're going to stay. So we might have to call on some family to see if we can just borrow a bed and a room for a night or two while the van gets repaired, and then we've somehow got to try and get back to Cambridge for Tuesday, because obviously I'm back at work at the moment. So yeah, these are the problems of van life. We'll touch base with you again in a few moments. Okay guys, so excuse the road noise, there might be the odd car because we're on a busy street, but we've delved into this turbo issue. Now on these Sprinters, this is a twin turbo, so hopefully you can see there, you've got one turbo down below there, and you've got just one turbo just above it. And then what we've done, so that we can see what's happening, is we've taken off the inlet pipes on both turbos, so we can actually physically see the inlet of the turbo. See if I can come around this way. I don't know whether you might be able to just see in there. Yeah, there you can just see the turbo in there. So then what we can do is, obviously we can see if they're spinning freely, if there's any play in the bearings or anything like that. Had a chat with a Mercedes engineer, Dan. He's been really helpful, and he said it's very unlikely that the turbos go on these, so they are spinning quite freely, so that's good. And then if you look at the back there, there's an actuator with a long rod that opens the gate on the turbos, and then that's vacuum controlled. There's a vacuum pipe comes off the back of that You see it rising up the top there, and then that comes across to these couple of solenoid valves here, and then these two solenoid valves electrically operated, a little coil in there, and then it opens these vacuum tubes, and then that would bring on one of the turbos or the other turbo. So it's most likely that either these pipes get blocked, so we've whipped off all these pipes and blew them through just to make sure they're okay, and then the other fault would be obviously these solenoid valves get stuck, or so that'll be the next thing we do, is we're just going to get these off, check the continuity on the coils, and then I might just nip out and get a replacement one, because it's quite a simple thing just to swap out, and then we'll see where we go from there. What is a turbo and how does it work? It's basically two centrifugal fans connected to a common shaft. The exhaust gases from your engine go down the exhaust manifold. Rather than going out the exhaust, they spin a turbine in one end of the turbo at really fast speeds. That's then connected by a common shaft to a compressor fan on the other end of the turbo. That compressor fan is sucking in air through your main air filter and then compressing it and supplying it to the engine. As it's compressed, it heats up, so it has to be cooled down first through the cooler before it's then put into the engine. And the more air and fuel mixture you can put in, obviously the more power the engine develops, and the more air also means the more fuel you can burn, so it makes the engine more efficient. In a Mercedes, they control the speed of the turbo by having variable valves. That actuator that you saw, which was controlled on a vacuum, as the revs increase, little veins open up in the turbo and allow more exhaust to go through the turbine, increasing the speed of the turbo and therefore compressing more air and pumping more air into the engine. So now obviously earlier on we diagnosed that it is one of these vacuum solenoid valves that was faulty, which was causing the turbo not to work. So we've got two new vacuum solenoid valves. I'm going to replace them both, and then I'll keep the one that we know is okay as a spare. So if we do get stuck on a road, I've got one spare. So they're about £59 or 60 quid each, so it's worthwhile doing, I think. So I'm just going to do one at a time, so then make sure that we get all the hoses and that in the right place. So it's a good idea to take a picture of what you're taking apart, and then you've got something to refer to when you're putting it back together. But there's two hoses on the end of the solenoid, and then there's electrical 12 volt connection on the other end. So just 3 clips and then 2 bolts just holding them on to the bracket. Alright guys, so this is the job that we've got today. We're going to do a bit of a full service on the Sprinter. Oil filter, air filter, carbon filter. I'm going to replace the handbrake shoes because it was something that we didn't do when we did the brake discs and pads last time. So I'm going to put new handbrake shoes on there because the handbrake's not brilliant, and we'll adjust that up. We've got a new spring set to go with that. And then obviously we're going to replace all the oil. The Sprinter takes about 11 litres of oil, I believe, so we're going to do that as well. So that'll give it a full service. So we've got good friend Mark with us today. Hi Mark.
Hello.
And we're just going to change the air filter. What are those two plugs that you've just disconnected there, Mark?
I believe that is ambient air temperature and that's FO, MS, whatever you want to call it.
So changing the air filter, there's half a dozen torque screws on the top just to release the cover. T20s. That's the old filter, and we'll show you in a minute what the difference is. I mean, this was serviced before we went to Europe last time, so it's done about 10,000 miles. And there you go, look, you can see all the dirt in that one compared to that new one. There you go, look. That'll just make the engine breathe a bit easier. Surprising, that little bit of dirt will make a huge difference to the airflow. it, easy as that. Do up the torque screws. You don't need a Mercedes technician to do that, do you? Easy as that, blimey. You've got a special tool to take the cap off of that, haven't you?
That is a Mercedes genuine tool, that one. Otherwise they can slip and they wreck it. That'll release the brain straight to something.
So what will that just release, like air
got,
pressure, if you like, will it? Or
so obviously that'll be full of oil, and then that little, so it'll make a bit of a mess.
so in the kit for the new filter, for the oil filter, you get a new set of O-rings as well. One large, and then two slightly smaller. The large one goes on the end near the cap here. You've got the slightly smaller one there, and then the very small one right at the end. So you have to take these old ones off and then replace them with these new O-rings, because they will the rubber will perish over time, so you need to put the new ones on. It don't matter if you damage the old ones, because obviously we're putting new ones on.
It's really hard, that. Good.
Yeah. What's that, Mark? Just to lubricate those new O-rings, yeah?
Help them on. And not only that, it stops it pinching when we do it up.
Okay, yeah.
You have to twist these when you put them on, gently. That's it, ready?
Yeah, cool. The cap on that, is that plastic, is it, you say?
Yeah, it's plastic, that is, yeah.
So you've got to be careful when you're undoing it, innit?
Yeah, it's best to get that tool. You can get other tools, but I've actually got one. I can show you one in a minute. The other tools, how they grip is they squeeze the side, and if they're old and brittle, it can crack them and break them. They don't have to be tight at all. Sensible.
So just nip it up basically, but don't go mad.
They're only 25 newtons.
This oil filter socket is a Mercedes part. There is a part number on the top here. What I'll do is I'll put a link in the description if you want to purchase one of these yourself. So the Sprinter takes 11 litres of oil according to the book. So each of these cans is 4 litres. So we're going to put 2 full ones in. We're going to stick half of the third one in, and then we're going to put it on some level ground and dip it, and then just top it up to the 11s. Don't want to put too much in. There might be a little bit of residual oil in there when we drained it out.
Running away.
Does that just literally sit on there in those rubber mounts, does it?
Rubber mounts in there, and that's just a push fit. Don't be scared to pull them. You have to really yank them out. Don't forget the plugs either.
So this is the cabin filter. This takes air into the heater for the air supply to the cab. So this is the old one. I mean, you can see the state of that. Oh, this is a carbon one, isn't it? Probably.
Yeah, it's carbon injected. That.
Yeah.
To help the smell.
Let's get the new one. go. Oh yeah, look at the difference in that. Oh, sorry. So that just literally just sits in there, guys, slides down there, and then underneath these two little clips at the top. That's it. So in the bottom of the air intake filter box, there's a little drain pocket with this rubber bung in it, and obviously you can see that's all loads of debris in there, so we're going to give that a clean out and put it back. So this little drain plug in the bottom of the air intake filter has got like a little one-way valve on the bottom of it, so it will let the water out, but then it won't allow any engine gases or whatever to be sucked back in. So there's three little holes in the bottom of that you just want to make sure they're clean, and then it will drain. Right, we're just going to put that back in there. So guys, you'll recall if you saw the previous video that we had starting issues before we started our last trip, and I had the glow plugs replaced, but I'm still getting a similar problem. Now this is the glow plug control module. We've got obviously a positive from the battery onto this terminal, and then in there you can see 4 outgoing terminals to the 4 glow plugs. So that obviously supplies the power to the plugs. So I've got a new module because we suspected that this one was faulty, and there's one way Mark's going to just put a continuity test on these, because there should be continuity between these plugs. Alright, so we should have like a little buzz bar in there that connects these pins together. So nothing on those two?
Nothing.
And continuity on those two, and then if we test the new one, go on mate.
They're working the other way around.
They're working the other way around, but yeah, got continuity on both sets of pins, and the other ones we haven't. So right guys, we've taken the glow plug control module apart just to show you exactly what's happening inside here. Now as you can see there, the bottom of those pins is connected to these brass rods, and this effectively like a fuse. These are really thin here, so if too much power went through here, these would burn out and they'd blow basically, and they'd break, and that would disconnect the power supply to the glow plugs. So these two on this side look okay, but have a look at this side. See, those two have burnt through and blown. So that means I'm only getting power to 2 out of the 4 glow plugs, which is why I'm having these cold start problems. So I'm amazed that Mercedes didn't check that and diagnose that when it went in for the starting issues and the starting problems. All they did was just go ahead and change the plugs, which has really done nothing at all, because if this is still in this state, new plugs or not, it's not going to make any difference. So I'm going to send that video back to Mercedes, I think. So there we go guys, new cabin filter, topped up with new screen wash, new air filter, new oil filter down there, and new oil. We've changed the 2 solenoid valves on the turbo, so that's fixed the turbo problem. We did check brake fluid levels, checked water levels and the condition of the water, and we've also put a new glow plug control module down there, which is going to stop that cold starting issue that I had. So all in all, a really good day's work. Parts come to just under £500, £150 of that was the oil, £60 for each of the solenoid valves, so that's 120, and then it was £110 for the glow plug control module, and then filters are quite cheap, 10 to 15 quid each, so that wasn't too bad. So all in all, that's probably saved me with the labour probably best part of another £500 for somebody to do all of that and diagnose it all. Right, so here we go guys, just going to start it up. The engine is still a little bit warm, so I'm expecting it to start okay, but circulate all that new oil. Yeah, glow plug light gone straight out, started first turn, Lovely, that should cure all our problems. So just checking the condition of the discs. They're not too bad. Very tiny little bit of scoring, but nothing major, and there's plenty of meat on those pads still. See down there. Obviously we already covered the brake disc and pad replacement in a previous video, so if you want to see that in more detail, I'll put a link in the top corner here. You can click on that and watch how they were replaced. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to take the disc off, and inside that drum will be the shoes for the handbrake, and that's what we're doing today. Right guys, so the plan for today was to check the condition of these handbrake shoes, and we're just taking the disc off of this one, and there's plenty of meat on there, which you'd expect from a handbrake because it's not like normal brakes, they don't wear down really. But the brake surface is a little bit glazed, so what we're going to do, we're going to keep these shoes on, we're not going to replace them, and we're just going to deglaze that shoe pad material, and then probably we'll clean up the inside of the disc as well at the same time, and then we'll show you how we adjust them. So you'll see there now that what was a sort of shiny surface is now gone back to the dull pad material. So if I get in close here, what you can see this little cogged wheel here, this is the adjustment for the shoes. So this pushes the shoes apart or brings them closer together. So the idea is, once we've got the disc back on and the hub back on, if you like, what we'll do is, through one of the bolt holes, is to turn this little cogged wheel and push the brake discs, brake pads rather, apart, so that they start to sort of bind on the disc. And then once they've sort of bound on the disc, then we'll back them off just one little click, and that's enough of adjustment. And then the travel on the handbrake handle should be far less, and the brakes should then work a lot better than they were. So now we just lined up one of the bolt holes with that little cog inside, and then Mark's just winding it forward to advance the shoes onto the inside of the drum. Now, so you can see it's a lot more difficult to turn. Yeah, can hardly turn it now. So then he'll back it off, one full click, and that's it. That's the shoes adjusted then. Couple of comments that we got when we did the brake pads last time was checking these slides. I didn't show it on the video, but obviously you just want to make sure that they're greased up and that they move quite freely. So we're just going to do that again, just for the purpose of everybody who did comment about it. It just allows that carriage to travel nice and freely. And again, we're going to clean up the slides, clean up the pads, put a little bit of copper slip on the end of the pads just so they slide in and out nicely. Right guys, so that's all of our service work done. It's been absolutely fantastic. I've learnt quite a bit, you know, doing these few little bits with Mark's help. So, you know, it will help us if we get stuck on the road and it's something similar, then I'm sure, you know, it's probably, I'm a bit more confident I could sort it out myself. So thanks a lot, Mark, I really appreciate it.
You know I am.
With all these things, it's just knowing somebody that you can trust, you know, and that's what we found with a couple of times that we put it into a garage. We've had what we thought, you know, we could trust the people to do the job, and we've come back and they obviously haven't done the job properly. So yeah, it's a difficult one to find somebody that you can rely on, but If some of you guys in the southeast of England are having trouble with your van and you need somebody that you can rely on, if you want to message me, I'll pass your details on to Mark, and hopefully he'll be able to help you out as well. I really appreciate it, mate. Thanks a lot.
Not a problem, Greg. You know where I am.
Thank you, mate. So there we go. It's incredible, isn't it? That small little device, if that had been checked and changed, that would have saved a whole world of trouble that we went through earlier with the van. You know, it wouldn't have got smashed into, we wouldn't have had to have those repairs. So having somebody that you can rely on to do your van repairs is just essential, and it's very difficult to find somebody that you can rely on. A lot of the main dealers just don't seem to take the care and attention that you would like them to with your own vehicle. I hope that some of that information has enabled you to maybe tackle some of your own repairs on your van, maybe do some of your own service work, because at least that way you'll know the job's been done right. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the videos. Please do give us a thumbs up if you liked it, and don't forget to subscribe. See you on the next video. Cheers!